Hi guys. So, I would normally do the intro thing, but I just want to get to it. There is no review this week due to the fact that there's been a lot of stuff that's been building up in my head, and I just feel like I have to get it all out there. Recently we've had some things happening, up to and including D23 very recently, announcements of the newest Marvel shows, the poster having been released for the new Star Wars Episode 9 film, the poster has been released for that, and to top it all off, two other major points. Number one, a He-Man cartoon will be produced on Netflix, written by one of the writers being Kevin Smith, another one being Mark Bernardin. You learn about this on his podcast, Fat Man Beyond. If you don't listen to it already, I encourage you to go check it out wherever you find your podcasts. And the other news, of course, being that wonderful piece of crap about Sony and Disney and the Spider-Man split from Marvel. I have so many opinions right now, and I just feel like this is not going to be a review, more as just a point-blank rant video, and I apologize if you wanted a review from me this week, but frankly, if you can come up with something for me to review, please let me know in the comments below. I have been toying with the idea of doing more movies that are meh. Movies that kind of don't make you feel any particular emotion at all, and it's meant to incite all these emotions from you at some point or another. But if you can think of any movies that are meh that you want me to do, please leave them in the comments or tweet at me at the Randomfish. I will again leave that handle in the description below for you guys should you want it to therefore find me, follow me, or tweet at me, whichever. So I'm going to talk about Sony and Disney first, because that was kind of the big story of the week. Everyone has laid out their ideas. Everyone has talked about whose side they're on. A lot of people are having a go at Sony because of stuff, and now all these people are coming forward, other people are coming forward sort of saying we shouldn't be yelling at Sony, it is Disney's fault, blah blah blah, all this stuff, one on top of the other. And I have to call BS on all of it. I have to call bullshit on all of it. Because these are two massive companies, and at the end of the day, they're as bad as each other. Yeah, think about it like that. They are as bad as each other. Disney is of course bad because it had a temper tantrum because Sony wouldn't give them more money, because then they, by the exchange of them giving them more money in order to help make the Sony Spider-Man standalone films. Disney threw a tantrum, and now Spidey's no longer in the MCU. Fairly easy to blame Disney, right? Well, there's actually kind of another flip side to this. Something that I kind of keep on coming back to in my head. This is to Sony. Even though they'll never see this video in a million years, I feel like I have to say this to Sony, online, for everyone to see. Dear members and executives of Sony, you guys do understand that you did know this was going to happen, right? Like, you're not that thick, are you? Because let's rewind a little bit. At one point in time, there was a Marvel downgrade. Marvel was losing money. They weren't as popular as they used to be. They were freaking out. They wanted any source of income, anything that could help them out. And so they sold the movie rights to various big-time characters, including Spider-Man, the Hulk, the X-Men, and the Fantastic Four. Now, X-Men and Fantastic Four, of course, went to 20th Century Fox, which Disney now owns. Therefore, those two properties are now back with the MCU, where Disney can properly exploit them for the money that they're worth. The Hulk currently exists only as a side character in various other movies, and while that's a good idea, and I'm surprised this hasn't come up as a thing either against, for Disney and Marvel. I'm surprised that hasn't become a thing yet. But they are making up for it with an addition of a show that I'm going to talk about in a minute, along with some other stuff. And of course, that leaves Spider-Man, bought by Sony, and they've now produced one fairly successful series of Spider-Man films, the Sam Raimi ones. Two amazing Spider-Man films, which some people like to try and shit all over, but I like the first one, and I kind of like the second one in certain places as well. So frankly, I will fight to defend those movies. And Into the Spider-Verse. Those are the three main ones that they did on their own, without Disney's any real Disney interference. Spider-Man: Homecoming and Spider-Man: Far From Home, they were involved in, and Spider-Man had a place in the MCU upon them reaching a deal with Disney back when Civil War was being made. But Sony, before that happened, did you honestly think with the MCU growing in the way it was that no one was going to come after you? Are you serious? Spider-Man is one of the biggest, if not the biggest character in Marvel for a very long time. Whether he still is or not is to be debated, but for years and years and years, people gravitated more to Spider-Man and the Hulk maybe than out of any other character in the MCU. Any other character in the Marvel comics, I should say. He was a prime focus point for them, because he was a way in. He was possibly one of the best creations from Stan Lee himself. May he rest in peace. While and did you really think, for an iota of a second, that once the MCU gained traction, that they weren't going to come after you and Spidey? Of course they were. I mean, they went directly after the Hulk, for crying out loud. They finally got one Hulk movie out of it, but since then he's been in the Avengers films, he's been in Thor Ragnarok, and that's it. But Hulk has not had a full-length Hulk solo movie since then because of the deal that's been made with that company that owned him. Do I hate this? A little bit. But at least I know that Hulk is actually working within the MCU and everything else. He functions well within the MCU, but that's Hulk. A character that by his very nature requires other characters, at least I think. He needs other characters to work with. Now Spidey is a great standalone hero. He does so well on his own. And that's where he comes from. And that's why this is so hard to understand. When the MCU managed to gain access to the Hulk, and they couldn't have him in a solo movie, I don't think Disney really cared. Because I think they realised that if the Hulk was part of a team, it would make him more accessible, and he would have a much, much greater addition to the audience, and the audience would love him and Banner more than if he was in a solo movie. Because in a Hulk solo movie, you have the whole on the run thing, and then of course you have the ultimate in emotional arcs. Of course, Bruce going, "The Hulk is bad, I'm good," blah 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 blah. And that's usually where those movies go. But with Spider-Man, you had story arcs, you had ideas, you had good, strong villains to work with. And yes, Disney was wrong to ask for more money. I don't dispute this. But for the love of all that's holy, Sony, did you really have to try and pull that right from under us? Did you have to really say, I'm not saying that Sony should have bent over backwards for them or anything like that, but I am saying that surely something could have been reached with a little bit of compromise. Because, I'm sorry guys, Sony in particular, I am sorry, but Disney is Disney. And the thing that pisses me off the most now isn't even the corporate bullshit that's going on. I'm sorry, it's not. What bugs me and upsets me the most is that Spider-Man is no longer in the MCU. Now, Tom Holland has reportedly is now still playing Spider-Man in the future Sony movies. How? How are they going to do this? No, I'm fucking serious. Tell me how. Please. Because without Tony Stark, he barely works. Yes, Tony's dead since Avengers Endgame. I'm fine with that. But let's also face facts. He was Spider-Man's motivation throughout Homecoming, and I'm guessing through Far From Home as well, just as much. I mean, hell, with his death, it's not entirely surprising. Guys, Tom Holland still playing Spider-Man? Not a problem. I love it. I love the actor. I think he's great in what he does. But don't... You're going to bring back Uncle Ben. It's the only way you're going to be able to pull this off in any way, shape or form. Maybe, do you know what? Maybe, let's just forget the anger and the slight disappointment in these two idiotic companies seeing whose dick is bigger for a second, and put that to one side. And just focus on the fact that maybe, just maybe, in a future Spider-Man movie, if this all goes ahead and everything's fine and everything's cool and nothing bad happens from this point on, maybe we'll get a good third Spider-Man movie. Maybe it'll happen. Because you know what? If it does, I'm fine with Tom Holland doing what he does. I actually am. I'm not angry at Tom Holland for what he does. I still love him. I still think he's a brilliant Spider-Man. I love what he does. But maybe in the third movie is when we actually get to meet Uncle Ben. Maybe we actually get to see the May-Ben courtship. And then maybe we get a Spidey who who doesn't grow up with Uncle Ben, but gets to know him as a friend first. A parental figure dying is pretty big, but we've already had that in this version of Spidey. So what if we had the friend who was becoming family or becomes family and then dies? How much more in the feels could that possibly get? I mean, good lord, that could be the greatest... That could be one of the biggest things you could ever have for Spider-Man. And hell, we could even take it a step further. Have Ben, have Ben with the knowing of Spidey's identity. Have that be a thing. Have that be a thing where he has to try and help Spidey get out of bad situations. Have him try to help May out with making the costume and all this stuff. It could be so effective if done right. And that's where my final point comes from, Sony. You claim that you don't need Disney. You claim that Spidey's out of the MCU. We'll be fine. You're fine with this. Are you, Sony? Because I hate to break it to you, but the Sam Raimi movies were okay, but the third movie was such a letdown by most fans that it just sucked and it bombed so bad. The Amazing Spider-Man movies, you got 2 out of them, and in the second movie everyone complained about the complexity of the plot and too many villains. That made it fail. The only films where you've had even the slightest bit of fame and good recognition has been with the MCU's help, and it's been with Disney's help. Like it or lump it, guys, this is what's happening. And as much as I hate the idea of rewarding a giant conglomerate with more money, I'm sorry guys, but it sounds like you might have to actually start bending a bit more. I hope there's a decision that comes to where everyone's happy and everyone can keep their pride intact, but at the end of the day, Sony, Into the Spider-Verse is the first real successful Spider-Man movie that you've done in a while where no one's had any issues with it. Please pull that out of your ass again, otherwise I don't have a clue anymore. But that's that. The Sony Disney Whinge Fest is officially Been talked about, it's done, we move on. Let's talk about D23, shall we? So we've had some releasements, that's not even a word, wow. We've had some, releases of new shows that they are putting out for this. I've been seeing rumours of Black Panther 2. I see posters for a She-Hulk, Moon Knight, and Ms. Marvel live action series. Okay, I'm good with this. I'm okay with this. Here's my problem though. With Ms. Marvel anyway, it's always going to be interesting to see her do her thing, given how she kind of is, at least from what I've seen of her. She's a fangirl first, and then a superhero. She is a fangirl who becomes a superhero. I don't have a problem with this, but at the same time, I hope you do her justice, because if you don't, the fans are going to come down so much harder on you than they would have at any other character. Iron Man, Steve Rogers, Thor, Hulk, Black Widow, Hawkeye, any of these characters, you've hit them so far, so well out of the park, and I don't want there to be any... I don't want Endgame to be the end of the golden age of the MCU. I just don't want that. I expressed this in a tweet at some point earlier when I first found out. I don't want this to be the end of the MCU golden age. I want it to continue at the same level of decency that it has been. That's all I'm saying. Moon Knight. I know nothing about Moon Knight. It's going to be fun to see him on screen. It'll also be fun to see how many fanboys are going to go, that's not accurate to the comic book. I put on a silly voice. I had a bit of a bad fanboy moment when Stormbreaker was introduced in Infinity War, when I said, where's Beta Ray Bill? There is no Beta Ray Bill. Why is there Stormbreaker? What the hell? And I got very, very angry. Yes, it's Stormbreaker, not what I said before. And then of course there's the She-Hulk series. I'm guessing they didn't have access to Hulk, but they have access to She-Hulk. Okay, I'm on board with this, because this could actually be quite cool. It could be a procedural drama with a Hulk. I kind of like this idea, simply because, picture this if you will, just for a minute, picture this. She-Hulk is doing some big court scenes, she wins a case, and the bad guy pulls out a gun and says, you'll never take me alive, and then starts shooting people, and he runs out of the courtroom, and she jumps, or runs really fast and then jumps really high in the air and lands in front of the police car, grabs him and slams him down on the ground and just says, justice is served, bitch. Yes! Because She-Hulk should be there. She-Hulk should be a strong character. We've had a strong female superhero being done in Marvel format before in terms of Jessica Jones, but this is the first time it's going to be absolutely linked to the MCU. Nothing else, nothing more, nothing less. It's kind of cool to see. And there's just a whole bunch of stuff that just sort of gets thrown around. In D23, there was all this talk about an Obi-Wan Kenobi show. Guys, no. Just no. I mean, okay, how do I have to keep on explaining this to you people? The trilogy was awesome. The prequels, not as awesome, but they told a coherent story. Obi-Wan Kenobi's time on Tatooine, which I think is where if they're focused on a very young Obi-Wan Kenobi, then Ewan McGregor has been seriously miscast, or someone's lying to him. Because I'm guessing he'll be doing a voiceover like Sheldon Cooper does in Young Sheldon, for God's sake. Which I really hope is not the case. But if they are focusing on his time in Tatooine, please let it be a psychological thriller. Just please. Because, guys, Obi-Wan can't get up to much on Tatooine. The reason why that stuff is so shrouded in mystery, supposedly, thanks to Disney's thought process, is that he was there trying to lay low. The reason he and Yoda went in different directions is because they were laying low. If they were together, the Sith would have definitely sensed them. With him on Tatooine, not doing much, only protecting Luke when it's absolutely necessary. No one knows about him. Anyone who does know about him is killed or dies of some random, circumstances of the damn planet. And there's a whole... Clearly, Disney execs haven't watched Star Wars Rebels. Clearly. There's a whole thing where the Inquisitors are running around trying to hunt down Jedi. There's also a pretty badass moment when Vader, in Season 2, kneels and is talking to the Emperor. And, he talks about how Ahsoka Tano is alive. And, it's this big thing of going, ooh, this is a good opportunity. And the Emperor says, she will lead us to other lost Jedi. And Vader says, such as Kenobi. In the original film, in New Hope, he hasn't seen Kenobi in years. He didn't know if he was still alive or not. He knew he might still be kicking around thanks to the Force, but that's about all he knows. The Empire definitely thinks he's dead. So whatever Kenobi gets up to on Tatooine, whatever you're basing this show on, people, you cannot make it a strong action film. You just can't. You can't make it an action series. You just can't. If you're gonna do a Kenobi movie, make it a Kenobi movie, not a Kenobi series. Please, Disney, stop thinking you know what's best for us. Stop thinking that you can rewrite the Star Wars canon. It's already been set in the movies that you cannot redo, not without inciting such a riot from the fans that your offices will be burnt within 24 hours. Like, I'm serious, if they attempted to remake the original trilogy, I can almost guarantee you that the fans of us that live in the UK, we couldn't even make it across the damn pond to point out our disgust before every American fanboy, every chubby guy that's in a wheelchair, every waddling guy, every freckled and wart-addled adolescent, every possible pissing, annoyed and pissed off fanboy or fangirl of Star Wars have lit their torches and have laid waste to you. And they will have burnt you down to the ground. And no, I'm not kidding. No, this isn't a threat. This is a real life... This is me predicting what will happen. If you attempt to remake the Star Wars canon again and again and again, you will lose. You cannot win. The biggest thing about Star Wars is exactly as it is from when Dash Star, when he was doing exclusive YouTube videos about Star Wars, he was saying our love of Star Wars binds us and binds us and makes us one. It surrounds us and binds us, and it makes us as a fan base a hell of a lot stronger than you guys. Now, you can remake the trilogy all you like, but I can all but guarantee you that even in the light of those things, even if you somehow manage to find and destroy every copy of the original trilogy in its original format with its original story, you will not find every copy. And there will be underground movements of Star Wars fans hiding behind bins, watching them on old projector screens. It's gonna happen. Wow, that was a tangent. Anyway, the Kenobi show... I'm just hoping they prove me wrong. Because if they don't, I'm going to be very pissed. The Mandalorian, the trailer for that was released. Jon Favreau. Well done, well done, well done. You certainly know how to do a good show. There's also rumours I've seen floating around of a Maul series. No. because we already know his story. The only thing that you could possibly make for that time period is in between his time in the Clone Wars, after he escapes Sidious's capture, up until the Rebels point when he meets Ezra and the others in Star Wars Rebels. I think that could be... I don't know if that could be fun or not. I have yet to understand that theory entirely. I can honestly say that if you did do a Maul series, only make it one season. Don't do more than one season of that, because then you're rewriting history, which is a load of BS. Also, the whole point was that the Empire barely knew that Maul was still alive. Or if they did, they sure as hell kept quiet about it. Which means he clearly didn't make enough waves to do anything big. So he can't do anything big against the Empire at all. In any way, shape or form. Plus, you know, the only good thing I can see coming from that, if they ever did do a Maul series for Disney, I wish to submit to you in the writer's room, and to those of you who may be watching this video, I don't know, I may have lost half of you with my rant tangent there, but what they should do is a live action retelling of that scene on Tatooine between old Obi-Wan and old Maul. During that entire thing where they circle the fire, they talk, the lightsabers come out, they talk a little more, they stand in silence as they move their blades to the perfect position to attack, and the fight's over in 3 seconds. Like, barely even count it. It's a brilliant scene, and I think it could be done really well in live action if it ever is done like that. Although, I'll be honest, the way Maul is kind of in that one is a lot cooler than anything they could pull in live action. And to top it all off, people, they're putting all of this on the Disney Plus app. Disney Plus streaming. Those of you who go off and get that, good luck to you. Me, unfortunately for some of us, we don't necessarily have the ability to get this show. So I'll be honest, we won't be able to watch The Mandalorian or the Kenobi show anyway. So everything that I'm going to know about it, I'm going to learn second or third hand through retellings or through online articles or whatever. So I'll be honest with you people, I am a big Star Wars fanboy, and this is kind of killing me, because now I can't watch some of my favourite shows. I know the Clone Wars new season's nearly out, which will be good. And of course, to top it all off at the end of that, we've also got the rather lovely, the very oh so wonderful and lovely poster for episode 9. Have you seen the poster for episode 9? On the one hand, I really like it. On the other hand, Palpatine's face. Right there in the background. I mean, does it look live action to you? Because it looks like an all CG movie, i.e. characters created from CG. It feels like one of those really awful straight to DVD sequels that, you know, should never have seen the light of day to begin with, yet somehow got greenlit because every studio exec was either high or off sick that day. That is what it feels like, people. But then this is what happens, and this is the kind of stuff that we deal with. So, what exactly is... what can we take away from this week? Well, I mean, we've had the Sony split. We've had D3, we've had the episode 9 poster release. We've had all sorts of wonderful things happen to us this week, haven't we, people? And you know what the saddest thing is? is that a lot of the times when I looked at this stuff, I wasn't looking at it as an angry fan getting angry at the companies. I was an angry fan getting mad at the fact that I couldn't see my favourite characters anymore. And I was angry because there are so many other ways you could have gone about this. And yet, they didn't. They haven't gone about it in the right way at all. Marvel could have one of the sweetest deals of all time. Yet they've refused at point blank to take it because they wanted more money. Sony decided to just point blank end of the line, just not accept anything from Disney in exchange for giving them more money, because they seem to think that even though Marvel are now not only back on their feet but are now thriving thanks to the MCU, just because that's happening, they still have the right to stomp their feet and go, yeah, we were here first. All I can say is to all of these big companies in charge of all of these big corporations and these big movie making businesses and all these wonderful films that we all enjoy, people just learn to get along. Why can't you white rich bastards just get along? Eh? No answer? Didn't fucking think so. So the last thing I want to cover on this channel before I sign off for this week is Masters of the Universe. Or Masters of the Universe Revelation. Now, we don't have a ton of information about this, except for what we've been told. Now, again, if you're an avid listener to Fat Man Beyond, you will already know pretty much of what I'm about to tell you, because that's where I get my information just as much. Recently, very recently, Kevin Smith, a director and writer that I absolutely adore. If you haven't seen his films, go and check them out. But only if you're over the age of 15, because I think that's the only way you can really appreciate them, is by being of that sort of cynical age range. Kevin Smith was approached to do a continuation of the original He-Man cartoon. The original, as in from the 80s, 70s, 80s. And he jumped on board like hair to an afro. He jumped in. And he decided that the best thing to do was to continue on with the next chapter in the He-Man story. Which I'm fine with. I 100% am definitely fine with. It intrigues me, though, simply because I'll still watch this show. And I will watch it avidly, and I will have fun, and I will laugh, and I will cry, and I'm sure I will thoroughly enjoy myself. The thing that bugs me, though, is that She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, the recent remake of She-Ra, is now in its 3rd season. And that remake has done very well. Not because it's on Netflix, but because it is in fact a very well put together, well characterized, very well plot driven show. He-Man, alternatively, had a remake done back in 2003 or 2002. Now I never watched the show in its entirety because I didn't have access to a lot of TV channels that would have allowed me to have watched it all the way through, I think. However, recently, all the episodes I found on YouTube, I have watched. And I found myself enjoying them. And to be honest, the remake that was done, I think if they're going to do a really well done show now, I think they should incorporate stuff from the 2003 show just as much as from the 1970s, 1980s show. Not because I don't like the 80s version, but because of things like the Adam to He-Man transformation. In the 80s version, he doesn't look different. I'm sorry, he doesn't. He doesn't look any different to He-Man. He wears clothes. That's his big reveal. Clark Kent has a better disguise than He-Man does. But in the 2003 version, you could see why they wouldn't notice that he's He-Man. As Adam, he's skinny, he's weedy, and his voice is different. When he transforms, he gets all big and muscular and his voice changes. It's kind of cool. And I'll be honest, the He-Man in 2003 was a much better, you know, metaphor for puberty than the bloody 80s version was, I can tell you that much. That's kind of what it feels like anyway. But this is what it leads to, and this is how it should all be going down. But I'll be honest, I'm looking forward to this show, and I'm going to look forward to it coming out. Hell, I look forward to everything that's coming out. I just hold my reservations, and I wish, if nothing else, to be pleasantly surprised by this. So you know what, people? Leave it in the comments below. Movies that are meh that you might want me to review or think I should take a look at because you want to punish me for something. And alternatively, leave a comment below about what new show you're most looking forward to. Or show you're least looking forward to, perhaps. So with that in mind, Randomfish out. Boo!